Hello, everyone. New stream. Today, we're doing the second part of implementing Stripe on a Webflow site. Okay, so if you're watching this for the first time, go ahead and watch the previous stream because we gave kind of, the initial introduction to this. In the previous stream, we implemented the front end form where people can pay. I'll show you in a second. And today, we are going to take that and finalize implementation with the proper backend APIs that are required to do this, okay?
That's it. Sweet.
Sadly, implementing Stripe with the unpaid forms, so if you're not using the Stripe checkout, you have to create an endpoint, a backend endpoint to generate the payment intents, okay? So it's something that requires a backend, and this is why it was perfect for the ongoing series that we have, where we're building a to-do application with Cloudflare Workers and Webflow. So hold on a second. I'll pull the front-end project that it was Cloudflare. Yeah. So this was the project. I know it's cool. Simple to-do form, log in, log out. We have already implemented Auth0. If you want to check that too, go ahead and check the previous streams. And on the latest stream, on the past stream, we implemented this, which is just a very simple form, which has an empty placeholder, and we mounted Stripe on top of this placeholder. So let me just open this, and I'll spin both just the front end and the back end. So I'll run pm dev on the front end code base and on the back end in here. And let's just refresh this. And hopefully, we should see how we are loading the front end form from Stripe, which is this one. Maybe we could even make the form a little bit. Let's just put a container small, and I'll just tweak this to make it even smaller. So it doesn't go all the way from side to side. We can make it a little bit better. But essentially, that's it. So we are mounting Stripe, and we're ready to start implementing this. We're ready to start submitting cards and doing something about them, okay? But if we remember what we needed here, we actually need to do something before making the payment, okay? Because now if we try to submit this, if I try to do this, well, you can see how Stripe is already validating stuff. But if we do this like that and we try to submit the form, nothing is happening, right? We have to still interact with Stripe and request finalizing that payment, okay? And if we pull the drawings that I did on the previous stream, let's remember what was the process. We wanted to identify the user, okay? We then want to create the payment intent, which is what it's missing right now. And then the user fills the payment form, the user submits that payment, and then we confirm that payment with Stripe, okay? That's the whole process. So what's missing is specifically creating this payment intent in here, okay? And for that, we will need a backend API. So we will need an endpoint for it, okay? And that's why I pulled the backend code base, because today we're going to need it. Okay, so first of all, let's go to the backend in here, and we'll just create another endpoint that will be called, and I'm just putting everything in a single file, but we could obviously improve this. But I'll just create another endpoint that will be app.get, and then something. Oh, you know what? Let me pull this up for a second, because we have an official guide from Stripe that might help us to find the proper names here. It's this. And do we need something from it? Oh, right. We need the price ID. So we'll make a post. And we'll do create subscription, as Stripe says. Okay. And in here, what we have to do is, first of all, extract the subscription data. So the product data for what the user is trying to pay for. In the case of here, we will just define that we're trying to purchase a subscription for the to-do app. Okay, and if you remember, we actually created that product in the previous stream too. So if I go to products in my Stripe account, we created this to-do premium subscription that it's $1,000 a month. So when creating the payment intent, we have to tell Stripe, hey, we're trying to create this payment intent for this specific subscription, okay? And this is for security. So what we'll do is extract the product data, create the payment intent with Stripe, and lastly, return the client secret, which Copilot is already telling. Let's disable Copilot. I don't want to spoilers like that. Okay, cool. So let's start with this. First of all, extract the product data. This is a post request, meaning that we will require to have in the body of the request the price ID that we're trying to use. Okay, so we can define that. Hold on a second. By just saying const input, it's going to be c dot body like that. And I believe that this is giving us... No, we can make this better. Hold on a second. The JSON, how did we do it on the previous one? I want to be consistent. When we are creating to-dos, yeah, we're just doing it with data, with the JSON method, and then we're asserting it. So we'll do the same. So the JSON, like that. And essentially now this input contains the body that was sent in the post request, okay? So now we want to make sure that inside here, we have the price ID field, okay? And if we remember about error validation and all that stuff, we want to make sure that the payload is valid, okay? So we can create a schema for it. Hopefully everyone will remember about this, but the schemas define the type of object that we're expecting, and we can validate it. Okay, so in this case, we'll say subscription or create subscription schema, and this is going to be an object that will include the price ID and will be a string like that. Okay, oops. And this means that we can use this schema to make sure that this exists. So we can say assert input with the create subscription schema like that. Okay, so now anytime that I interact with the input after this, you will see how... Hold on. Am I doing it the other way around? No, this should be it. Oh, no, right. So, sorry. C.text for now. Let's just do this. Okay, I'm getting all these errors because Hano was expecting to have a return statement. Okay, and again, this should be async because we're waiting. Okay, that's good. And then c.request.json. Now we're talking. Sorry, I had to remember all of this. But essentially, we're extracting the input from the JSON payload that it's being sent. We're making sure that the input has the format that we're expecting. And after that, now we can access the price ID. Cool. So now that we have the price ID, we can create the payment intent. Let me just extract it just for convenience, price ID, like that. And here now we are going to create that payment intent. And to do that, we need the Stripe package. Let me check if we have it. We don't have it. So let's just install it. We'll go here and say pm add Stripe. Like that. 1 second. Okay, cool. Stripe, got it. We have to initialize Stripe. Okay. And for now, just for the sake of going fast, I will initialize Stripe right inside the request, but later we'll have to somehow reuse this Stripe initialization. Okay. But for now, let's just say const yeah, we'll just say const Stripe equals to Stripe Let's include this because I think I'm not getting auto completion. Stripe from Stripe. That. What happens if I do this? Oh, it's the same. Yeah, that's what I wanted. And in here, we'll pass the test key. And the test key, remember that we can get it from products. We go to developers, API keys, and we have to use the secret key, not the publishable key. The publishable key is what goes on the public site on the front end. We're going to use the secret key, which is what we use in the backend to interact with Stripe safely. Okay. So in here, just Stripe, pass it like that, a new Stripe like that. And this is also expecting the API version. Maybe we can discuss about this because it's something interesting that you might want to know about. The API version, and just something that it's helpful. It's you can define extra options like the amount of retries that you would like to do before failing. Okay. Let's quickly talk about this API version. I think that this is something really important to know. So essentially, when you're using the Stripe APIs, all the SDKs that interact with the Stripe API, Stripe has different versions of the API, meaning that sometimes there are breaking changes in the API specs. Okay, but Stripe, instead of just throwing the changes or putting them behind a flag in the route itself, so instead of calling let's imagine, I'm just making this up, but let's imagine that it is stripe.com /v2/endpoint. Okay. Instead of putting everything on behind flags like this, what Stripe does is it uses an API version header like this. And essentially, these API versions are based on the changelog of the API. And we can check that if we go to developers and we go to overview, I believe, you will see how there's this API version in here, okay? And this API version contains all the potential versions. And right now you can see how the default in my account is using the 2020 03. And we can even check the reference to see all the updates that have been happening on the API. On the 2020, this happened. And then on the next update that was on the 2020 August, all of these changes happened, and same for 2022 August, all these changes happened. So whenever you're migrating from one version to the other, you have to make sure that your code base is adapted to these changes, okay? But because we're just building this from scratch, we'll just bump everything to the latest version, which is November 15th of the last year. Perfect. So now this means that all the webhooks, all the interactions that we have with the API are going to follow this API version. And we just have to also define the API version. Hold on. And in the SDK, so the SDK knows exactly what version we're dealing with. Yep. I don't know if you wanted to know this, but it's something cool to know. Okay, so we have Stripe initialized. And now what we have to do is create the payment intent. So let's just do it. Let's go ahead and say, we'll put it in a try catch because this can fail. So this can be an error. And when it's an error, we'll handle this in a second. But let's create the subscription. And this is going to be await stripe.subscriptions.create. Okay. And in here, we have to pass a bunch of options. We have to pass the customer ID. And now you can see that, okay, we don't have a customer. And this is because we still have to create the customer profiles for all the users from all zero. Okay. But in my case, I'm just going to do something very quick that will be, I'll go to customers and I'll manually create a customer just for the sake of going fast. And this is going to be Alex Iglesias and Alex Iglesias at Finsweet.com. Oh, actually, no. The account was test. Let's remember that we have an account called test. So test and billing information, nothing special. That's it. Yep. So now that we have the customer, for now, I'll just hardcode this. I'll take this ID from the customer, and let's put it in here. We'll take care about properly identifying the user afterwards. Okay, customer, and then we have to pass the array of items that we want to include in the subscription, because it might just be one thing, but it could be multiple things. Maybe it's the base subscription and an add-on for extra views, or maybe a one-time payment for a plugin. I don't know. You could be charging for anything to the users. That's the SaaS spirit, just charging for everything. And the pricing here, it's going to be the price ID that we extracted from the payload in here. Okay. On payment behavior, and this is just now for defining how we want to handle stuff. Okay. Payment behavior will define it as default incomplete, meaning that we'll create this subscription, but this subscription is currently being incomplete. It's not paid. Okay, what's missing? It's confirming the payment for the subscription, and that's why we'll send that to the front end and confirm the payment with the payment form that we have. Okay, payment settings, and this is just, I think it's cool, but it allows to save the payment method, but I don't think we need it. I'm just checking this from the docs, and I just realized that it was cool. But one thing that we will need is to expand this. Okay, and I think that we should also talk about the expand field in subscriptions. Okay, and it's going to be very simple. For now, I'll just commentate it out, and then we can compare what happens when we enable or disable the expand field. Okay, you'll see it very quick. So we have the subscription. The only thing that is missing is returning that subscription to the front end so we can use it. We don't need the full subscription. We just need two things. So we'll say return CJSON, and in here we will return the subscription ID, which is the subscription.id. And also we will need the client secret, which is the subscription latest invoice. Hold on, we cannot do this without expand. So for now, let me actually just return the entire subscription, okay? Because I want to show you what happens if we don't enable expand. Okay, that's it. When failing, we can return something, but now that I'm thinking, we are already handling errors, right? We're handling errors, but we can do better. Let's just throw an error when this fails. We'll say throw a new cooler error, and this is going to be subscription creation failed, and the status code can be just a 500, like that. Okay. Now that we have this endpoint, what should we do in the front end code base with it? Like, what do we need to do? So let me just say here, mount the Stripe payment form. Okay, this is happening here. Before that, we want to create the payment intent. So let's just create another function just for the sake of organization, and we'll say create payment intent, like that. Okay, and this will just be an async function that does a call to our backend. So it's going to be try catch. If something fails, for now we'll return null, and we'll just call the endpoint. So not returned response, and we'll do a fetch to the endpoint, which is localhost 3000, not 3000. Which localhost was that? I forgot. 8787. Okay, so 8787, like that. Perfect. And slash create subscription, which is our endpoint. Okay. Return await, blah, blah. Okay, so this is our endpoint. We're fetching this, but we have to pass in the body what we're trying to pay for. So in this case, we'll send in the body, we'll do a JSON.stringify, and we'll pass the object of price ID. And the price ID, in our case, it's going to be, let's remember that we have the product in Stripe. The price ID is going to be this one. No, hold on, this one. We're trying to charge $1,000 a month to our users. So we just get the price ID from it. Price ID. You can get it from multiple places. In my case, okay. So price ID, this one. And for now, that's it. Okay. Hold on, but let's just do it. Let's just pass in the headers, although we're still not using it, but we will use it in a second. Authorization. It's going to be a var with the access token. Okay. So what's missing is getting the access token from Auth0, right? So we want to make sure that the user is logged in when doing this. So in our case, what we could do when creating the client is we could do require log in. Okay. If we pass this to the create client, what I want to do is make sure that if on that page we are forcing the user to be logged in, otherwise we redirect it back to the homepage. Just, because yes. So I'm going to say that if the user is not logged in, if it's not logged in and we require logged in, what we'll do is log in with redirect. That's it. So now we know that when we are here, the client is going to be logged in, which means that we can also do access token equals to client get token silently. Okay, if you're wondering what I'm doing here, we talked about all of these Auth0 methods in, I don't know how many streams ago, but we did talk about this. Okay, access token. Oh, hold on. We have to pass the access token to the function like that. Yeah, cool. Okay, so now we have this function, create payment intent, where we send the authorization headers. We also send the body with the price ID. Okay, and just for the sake of making sure that this is accepted, I'll say that content type is application.json, just for the sake of telling the server that we're sending a JSON payload, which is the price ID. Yep, we got the response here, and now we want to just get the data, which is await response.json, like this. And this data, it's going to be a subscription object from Stripe, I believe. Is it a subscription object? Yeah, Stripe subscription. Let's just console log this for now. We can tighten up some things later, but for now, let's just console it. And let's return it like this. So when we create the payment intent, we'll do it here. We'll say payment intent, await, create payment intent, and we'll pass the access token inside it. Access token. Okay, let's just do this. Maybe it's better to console log it here, so we have all the console logs in the same place. And let's remove this one like that. Cool. Okay, let's go to the front end. See how I'm already in the login page, and this is because hold on. This is because the auto refresh, the live reload, already reloaded the page, and we have that logic of redirecting the user if it's not logged in. So now, tradition as always, I have to remember the password for the user. So let's go back. This is the tradition already. But let's go to the user management, users test, and let's update the password again. Change password. I'm not even trying to remember it. I'm just doing a new password every time. Now that we have it, let's log in. I need a link to go to the payments page. So let me just put another button that goes to the payments. Pay me plus. And let me remove stuff like this. Okay, payment please. Great. So everything seems to be working because now I can access the page. But something happened because we didn't get a payment intent. So at some point, something didn't work. Let me just check perhaps it's not. No, it seems that it's not firing. So something it's missing. Hold on. HTTP, localhost, create subscription, headers, body. Oh, the method. The method is supposed to be a post request like that. Was that what's failing? Yay. Okay. Well, what's missing was the HTTP method. Okay. So now, cool. We got the data from Stripe. So this payment intent is what we generated in the backend with these Stripe subscriptions create. Okay. So essentially, it's not a payment intent. It's an actual subscription object from Stripe. Okay. And let's check all the data that it includes. It includes when it was created, the currency, probably the customer too. It includes the ID, obviously. It includes the items. And in this case, the item is the price where we're trying to charge for $1,000 a month. Stripe always uses units as cents. So you have to divide it by 100 when dealing with it. So it includes everything. But what we want to do is convert this subscription from the current status of incomplete, because it's still not paid, to active. And to make that, we have to finalize the payment, right? So what's missing now is taking the payment, because for every try that Stripe wants to charge something, it creates what's an invoice. Okay. So we have to retrieve the invoice and then pay that invoice on the front end. Okay. And let's remember, now we're getting to the point where I can talk about the expand field. Let's remember that I commented this out in purpose to show you the difference. Okay. If I comment this out, look what I'm getting in the payload in here. Latest invoice equals to just an ID. But that's it. I'm not getting the full object. I'm just getting the ID of the invoice. But if I uncomment this like that, and we refresh the page, hold on a second, like that, and we check it again, now the latest invoice contains a full object with all the data from the invoice. It includes the amount due, if something was paid, what's remaining, which basically is the difference. Well, it includes every single detail from that invoice. Okay, it even includes an invoice URL, so you can download the invoice, which in this case seems like it's failing. Maybe I copied something correctly, but I don't know. So it's invoice PDF. So I could even download the invoice PDF if I wanted to. Okay, which is cool. You can always send those invoices to people. Okay. So the difference between setting the expand field and not setting it, it's because for performance reasons, Stripe compresses many of the fields that go inside an object. Okay. And you can check that if we go to the Stripe API documentation, Stripe API reference, you can look it up. You will see there are many fields that are marked as expandable. So if I look for expandable, or it even has a section talking about this, okay? Because if Stripe included everything, essentially would be like a huge payload that would include a lot of things that you really don't need probably for your use case. So Stripe just condenses it and asks you to expand the fields that you need when we're talking about deeply nested fields, like an invoice that it's inside a subscription object, so you're getting nested objects. So in this case, we had to expand it to be able to access the payment intent from the latest invoice. Okay, this is what we wanted to have. So now I can reduce the payload that we're sending here, and instead I'll just send subscription ID. It's going to be the subscription ID and the client secret, which is the payment intent secret, and it's going to be subscription dot latest invoice dot oh yeah, so this is because TypeScript doesn't know if we're actually expanding it or not. So we have to make sure that it's the Stripe invoice object. We can do that. Let's just do it. Yeah, let me hold on a second. Let's do this. Latest invoice. It's going to be subscription. Type of subscription. Oh, or wait, what we could do, just for the sake of making this clear, we could say if type of subscription dot latest invoice equals to string, just throw an error, okay? Because now check that Stripe invoice, it's just the invoice as not a string, because TypeScript it's inferring that there's no way that the subscription latest invoice object can move past this place when being a string. Okay, so it's just narrowing down the types with TypeScript. And actually, I want to also make sure that it exists. So if there is no latest invoice or it's a type of the string, like that, perfect. Okay, and also payment intent probably will have to do the same because they can be a string too. So we will have to also say or no subscription dot latest invoice dot payment intent, or I'm doing a lot of ors here, but it's worth it just for the sake of having type safety. Dot payment intent, like that. So now if we access this payment intent, now it should be an object that's correct, and the client secret is what we want. Cool. Or we could even say, yeah, because I want to make sure that the client secret exists. So we could even say, or, and if I do this, I'm cleaning it up a little bit. Okay, cool. So now if for any reason the response from Stripe doesn't come the way that we're expecting, with an object with the latest invoice and the payment intent and the client secret inside it, we're going to throw an error. Okay, so at least we can tell the user that something failed, that something that was not right. Let's go back here. Let's refresh the page. Let's see the response. Payment intent contains the subscription ID and the client secret. Great. Okay. This client secret contains a reference to the payment that we're trying to do. So essentially now Stripe will only process the payment of this card if we pass this client secret. Okay? And if we remember on the past stream, the reason for this is for security. This is because Stripe now it's not going to accept anything from the front end. It's not going to say, hey, I can charge whatever you pass me here. Stripe is only going to charge for what we got from the backend, which is our own process, making sure that it's safe with these reference to the payment. Okay, so the only thing that's missing now is passing that client secret to Stripe when submitting the form. Okay, we have to confirm this payment. Let's move to the front end code, and we're going to listen for form submissions and confirm the payment. Okay. Oh yeah, let's remember that the response is either subscription ID or payment intent. So let me, just for the sake of having type safety, I'll say subscription ID, it's a string, payment intent, no, not payment intent, but client secret, it's a string too, like that. Because now I have proper auto completion here. And if we don't have payment intent, we'll just return, okay? For now, we could make things better, handle errors, but I don't have time for it. Cool. Okay, cool. The only thing that's missing now, as I mentioned, is listen for events. And we need to have the form. Yeah, we haven't created the form, so let's create a form. So form is going to be document query selector. Do we have a selector for it? Let's go back here. Form. No, we don't have a selector. So let's just say data element equals to payment form, for example. Could be any name. So this is going to be data element equals to payment form. And this is going to be an HTML form element like that. And if we don't have a form, let's just return to avoid any errors. And we could even query the placeholder to make sure that it's inside the form, just for the sake of a little bit more safety. Okay, so we've mounted everything. Correct. So now form.addEventListener, submit. Let's confirm the payments. This is going to be an event, and I want to prevent default. And in the case of Webflow, not only prevent default, but stop propagation, because otherwise the front-end library from Webflow will still submit the form. It's a pain in the ass. You have to stop the propagation of the event. Okay? And inside the submit, we can now complete the payment. So we want to confirm that payment. And to do that, we can do result equals to stripe.confirm payment, like that. Okay. And inside the confirm payment, we have to pass a couple options. The first one being the elements, which, let's remember, it's the instance that we created to mount the payment form. So this is something that we generate with Stripe. Okay. You can check the previous stream if you don't remember this. And when setting up the elements, we have to pass a client secret here. Payment intent, client secret, like that. Yeah. Okay, so the client secret is passed to Stripe when we instantiate the form. So now the form that it's here instantiated, okay, it's only going to be tied to the client secret that I mentioned before. Okay, and now we just pass the elements when confirming the payment, and we can potentially redirect the user, I think. Oh, we could also pass the client secret here. And it seems that it's even asking it. So maybe you can do at both places. What's missing here? Hold on. Elements, redirect. If required. Confirm params. I'm just watching everything. Return URL, save payment method, set up feature usage. So you kind of have a few options when confirming the payment, and you could, for example, return the user somewhere. So just for the sake of trying it out, let's just return the user to the homepage. Yeah, why not? Okay, let's await this. And essentially, oh, I need to make this a sync. And essentially, this result will contain any errors if something happens. Okay, and the payment intent, I think that just also gives you some information about what you tried to confirm, first of all. Okay, so I'm thinking that because I want to console log this, let's console log the result. Let's not redirect the user, because otherwise, I think that's not even needed to. It's still asking me. Is it? Can I do this? No, this is asking for a return URL. Okay. Honestly, I'm just discovering this now with you guys. But let's see. Let's just try to make a purchase. I think that I have everything in place. I think so. So let's try it out. Let's refresh this. And obviously something it's not working, and it's probably because it's not finding the form. Yeah, we have to publish it with the selectors. Try it again. Payment intent, card. Okay, that's good. So now we have to test this, okay? And in order to test this, what we can do is go to Stripe test cards, because there's a whole section of Stripe that allows us to pick any credit card that we want with different outputs. So it even gives you payment if you want to use a credit card that it's going to be declined, or if you want to use a credit card that it's marked as fraudulent or with a warning, or a credit card that will require doing extra steps to validate the credit card. Or there are credit cards that work correctly, and I want to find those ones. I think that the one that works correctly is the one that it's 424242. Yeah, this one from the US. Let's just use this one, okay? 424242. Here, 424242. Blah, 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 blah. We have to make sure that we pass some valid dates, okay? And let's just submit. Okay, hold on a second. Confirm payment. Should have mounted payment element. Oh, yeah, because, okay, let me explain what's happening here. We're trying to confirm a payment, okay? But when you're creating this form, you can have multiple type of forms. You can have a form that accepts multiple type of payments, like it accepts PayPal, it accepts credit cards, it accepts Apple Pay, it accepts everything. Or you could be specific about what things you want to accept, okay? And in my case, what I did was just accept the cards payments. So we mounted the card payment, meaning that we have to confirm a card payment. Card payment like that. And probably now it's missing something. Confirm card payment. Let's see what are the options that we require. Client secret. Okay. So let's say payment intent, client secret. And then we have to pass in the options. I think that's it, actually. We don't have to pass any other options. Let's try it again, okay? Because we're trying to just confirm the card form, not a form that could contain everything. I don't know. Stripe is weird in this sense. Okay, let's try it again. I want to make sure that this works before we end today's stream. Okay, we kind of were there, but we have an error. Payment intent incompatible with the payment method. Payment method of type card was expected to be present, but this payment intent does not have a payment method and none was provided. Okay, this means that in the backend, where we are generating the subscription in here, we also have to define the type of payment that we're using. Let's do something better that I should have done from the beginning to avoid confusing you. And instead of mounting the card form, just where we accept just cards, I'll just mount, yeah, it says create payment, which is the default one. So I'll just use this one, create payment, okay? And so instead of being called card, we could call it just payment element. And now it should work, I think. We should go back again to the confirm payment instead of confirm card payment. And maybe in the next stream, I can talk about this when I do some debugging from my side, because otherwise I could be confusing you. So we're passing the elements. We're also passing the client secret, which is payment intent, client secret. And we also had to pass the confirm params, return URL. And this was local host. Like that. Looks like I have to put a submit button. So let's do it in a second. Button. Submit button, actually. Form button. Like that. Let's try it again. Because it seems that if I use my keyboard, it doesn't work for any reason. Okay. We're almost there. 222, Spain, submit. Okay. Element submit must be called before Stripe confirm payment. Call element submit as soon as your customer presses pay prior to any asynchronous work. Okay, so somehow this is expecting us to call element submit. Okay, so it seems that elements.submit is something that we have to call before, just for the sake of testing. Let's test it. Okay. Honestly, it's the first time that I'm encountering this. Maybe I did something different. Okay, actually, it seemed that it worked. Is there a guide available for Stripe subscriptions in Zwiz and Zeno? I don't know, but I'm going to check it out and let you know next week, Theo. Okay, we got redirected, which means that we did something good. Okay, so let's just try it again. And instead of redirecting this time, I don't want to return that URL. Actually, let's just check Stripe. I want to make sure that we have actually purchased. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. So the goal of today has been accomplished at least. And it's that we have successfully charged $1,000 to our users. Okay, so this worked. This was successful. What I want to see now is if I can manage to not return, to not be redirected. So I'll just leave this error in here, or I'll leave this, but without a confirm params. So this is expecting us to say that redirect if required. And this means that we can get rid of the confirm params. Yeah. Okay, great. So that was missing. Okay, cool. I managed to avoid the redirects. So now we'll make a summary of everything that just happened. Okay. So we got a result showing me the payment intent that was $1,000 for a subscription that the payment succeeded. It was for, is it tied to the subscription? Client secret. No, I think it just tied to the client secret. Okay, the client secret, let's remember that it's what defines what we're paying in Stripe. Okay, so if we go back again to our customer profile, we should see how we have now 2 ongoing subscriptions. Good. Okay, see all these invoices? This is what I mentioned when I said that Stripe, essentially before paying, Stripe always creates an invoice. So in this case, we have a lot of open invoices because it's what we are generating every time that we create a payment intent, but that's intended. Because the open invoices, when they are not collected, I think after 24 hours or something like that, Stripe cleans them up. So it's not like you're gonna be flooded with, a lot of unpaid invoices. Instead, all the open invoices are cleared by Stripe. Okay, but we can see the ones that have been paid, which is cool. Okay, it is really cool, and this brings me to the next steps, and it's we have to communicate now to Auth0 that Stripe successfully charged for a subscription. Okay. End of stream. Kind of, we reached the goal that I was expecting, and it's that we are able to successfully make the payments. We've got a result, and if we check it in Stripe, we can see how we successfully charged that amount to the customer. Okay, that's a good first step. The next step is just sending that data to Auth0, so Auth0 knows when a user has paid for something, or when a user has canceled the subscription, or any other thing that happens in Stripe. Okay. Basically, we're going to create a connection between Stripe and Auth0, where Stripe is always going to tell Auth0 everything that happens. Okay, and the reason why we're going to do that in Auth0, it's because then in Auth0, we're going to be able to use roles. Okay, and essentially roles is something that we use to define different type of users. A role could be a premium user, it could be an admin user, it could be a free user, it could be anything. And based on these roles, then we can just manage everything that is happening in our applications. We're gonna get the user profile, and we're gonna see what type of role that does that user have. So then we can allow the user to do certain things or not. Okay, so essentially, whenever Stripe changes something and communicates to Auth0 with a webhook, we're gonna update the role of the user with a proper new value. Okay, so that's coming on the next stream. If you want to see that, stay in just check it out. Next Friday, I think that's gonna be the last one here. Very exciting. Thank you all for being here. Leave a like if you like this, comment anything, and see you next one. Thanks.